So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. Before I get into what I really wanted to talk about, hopefully I can do this video without my friend coming and interrupting me like always. But I want to talk about grace. And grace, and I'm going to be brief about this, but grace is the reason that a lot of us are still functioning, why a lot of us are still here. We're here because of grace. And I'm not talking about in biblical terms because they have misused and abused that term. In actuality, grace is the divine spirit. Grace trumps that God of the Bible. God's grace, no, it's grace's grace. Grace is the real God, and it's a feminine energy, okay? And a lot of us are still here because of grace. No matter what people may say about you, no matter what people may do to you, you are still here because of grace. And nothing or no one can come against you and succeed. And I just wanted to say that first. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. So they have arrested P. Diddy. They've indicted him in New York, right? And I know a lot of people are jumping for joy, and that's their right. But I want to have a deeper conversation about this because, you know, I hear different things on different sides of the aisle about, well, P. Diddy is only a pawn, or P. Diddy, he's really not the source of everything. I understand all that. And I get it. I got it. We all know that there's always a there's a hierarchy, and there's always a higher realm of things that are taking place. We get it and we got it. You know what I'm saying? However, P. Diddy is problematic. And he's problematic because he's a soul sucker. I went back and watched that video, and I think I mentioned this before. If I didn't, I'm gonna mention it. If I did, I'm gonna mention it again. I went back and watched that video with him and Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls was the star. He was a star. Biggie Smalls was a star. And I'm only speaking in layman. I know they say he stole his persona from someone else, but between him and Puff Daddy, Biggie Smalls was the real talent. In the video, can't you see with Total, I believe, right? Junior Mafia that came out in the 90s. When you see Puff Daddy in that video, he's showing you who he is. He's moving like a puppet on a string. You know what I'm saying? But he was controlling other people while being a puppet being controlled himself. If you go back and look at that video, can't you see? Which, you know that song, Can't You See What You Do to Me? You know what I'm talking about. Junior Mafia with Total. He's in the video, Puff Daddy, moving around like a puppet. So he's telling you who he is from the get go. So I understand when people say, oh, it's bigger than Bill Cosby, it's bigger than Puff Daddy. I understand that. But are we supposed to turn a blind eye to all of the horrible things this man has allegedly done? And I'm going to be fair and say allegedly. Are we supposed to turn a blind eye to that? We keep hearing about all the wonderful things he has done for the black community. Well, may I ask a question? Who did it benefit? All of these wonderful things that people keep saying, that all of these horrible men who've done horrible, detestable things to people, and not just to one person, not just to two people, but generations of people, the violations, the betrayals, and even the unaliving. Who benefited from all of these so-called wonderful good deeds that P. Diddy, Bill Cosby, and the rest of these men allegedly have done? And please do not talk to me about the National Negro College Fund, because the only people that benefited from that were people that were already connected in those Masonic fraternities and sororities. They were already lined up to benefit from that generosity coming from Bill Cosby. That was not for your average person or your average black person. And I'm going to say something that may ruffle a couple of feathers, but you know I don't give a damn. That's probably why a lot of white people say, hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. And this is not giving any passes to racism, but I'm just making a point. Is this why a lot of white people like Elon Musk or Elon Musk, whatever his name is this why they say, hey, wait a minute. You're getting a pass because of your skin color to go to these Ivy League colleges. But in actuality, are you even qualified? Because you're coming in under the Bill Cosby effect. And the same can be said about some of the white students that get passes to go, like that scandal with those Hollywood kids that were getting into those Ivy League colleges that they really didn't qualify to get into. So it's not just about black, it's about injustice across the board when it comes to this elitism. But is that what Elon Musk was talking about? That it's all an agenda to put certain people in certain places, even though they don't qualify and even though they don't deserve to be in those positions? You have corrupt people running the world everywhere. That's not just Puff Daddy, of course. But when we say things like that, and this is nothing against my other spiritual co-workers who have their own point of view, I'm just giving, my own point of view. But it does a disservice, because it's almost like saying, well, yes, I unalived a million people. Just I'm giving an example, an analogy. I unalived a million people, but my neighbor next door, he unalived one person, so he should get caught too. But dude, you got a million bodies in your backyard. And you talking about a person that only has one body in theirs? That's the energy of it. That's the effect of it. You feel what I'm saying? All of these wicked, detestable, evil people have been put in places that they didn't deserve to be put in the first place. Puff Daddy never deserved to be on a pedestal. He never deserved that. And those are just facts. Why would they give someone like him the key to the city? Music and musicians, and I'm being honest about this, it really used to be about the soul and the spirit, and giving people melodies and things that they could listen to that would help raise their frequency. But they stopped doing that once they learned that they could make money. They could make money off of people suffering. There's nothing wrong with money. Something is wrong with people. Let me say that from the get-go. There's nothing wrong with making money and being successful. Money is good. Money is beautiful. Money is my friend, and money is your friend. But the problem is people. Just like people complain about the guns. It's not the guns. It's the people behind it. You feel what I'm saying? So it's not the money, it's the people. But music was used to help raise the vibration and the frequency of the planet. That's how it used to be, to help people raise their vibration so people could have a good time. But then once they started getting into greed, sacrificial type of energies, um, tyranny, licentious activities, once they started going down that trajectory, that is when the scope of music started to change. Because music used to be about enjoyment, pleasure. It wasn't about somebody making $1 trillion just because they made a song. That's what it became. Of course, you deserve to get money for your work if it's worth that. Of course you do. But not when it's based upon and built upon other people's misery and suffering. And that is what this man, Puff Daddy, has done. And not just him. So when people say that it's bigger than Puff Daddy, you're absolutely right. But if we don't begin with him, then where do we start to call out this type of detestable behavior? Where do we start? And I know what people are going to say, well, they're setting him up because he's a black man. And that may be absolutely true. But like every other man on this planet, black men have choices. Puff Daddy had a choice. He had a choice. And once he knew what he was getting involved in, he could have easily backed out of it. But he chose to go forward. He chose to go forward. He chose to go forward. He chose to do everything that allegedly he's been accused of. We saw what he did to Cassie Ventura on tape. It doesn't matter, what conspiracy theories come out of that. I get it, I got it. Everybody has their own opinion. But let's take all that out of the equation for a minute. We saw what he did to Cassie Ventura on tape. That is who he really is. And I don't give a fuck who don't like it. We've heard all the allegations against him. We've heard them. So all of this, well, it's bigger than this person and it's bigger than that person. To me, when people say that, it's almost like you invalidating what we already know about him. I already knew Puff Daddy wasn't shit years ago, before any of these allegations came out. Isn't it a little bit coincidental how everyone around him, Tupac, Biggie, and others, or people that are up under his effect, isn't it interesting how they always end up unalived? Isn't that interesting? Now, I know, and listen, I get it, that it is bigger than Puff Daddy. That is one of the reasons why I don't really mess with the Democratic Party. Because if you notice something about the Democratic Party, they are always surrounding themselves with celebrities. And that's one of the things that's turning me off from them. You know, if Donald Trump, let me say this, I don't have anything against Donald Trump personally. I think that Donald Trump is a brilliant businessman. I wish he was my uncle sometimes, child. He can give me some tips. You know? Shit, help me build the business that I have in my dreams that I'm not going to mention on here, you know. The problem of Donald Trump, and see, this is a problem. The problem of Donald Trump is this. He does not have the right image consultants consulting him. He needs someone like me to consult him and tell him the truth that Mr. Trump, you cannot go on stage and say that a bunch of Haitian immigrants are eating and unaliving animals. You cannot do that. That can be looked at as being racist, inflammatory, and you can cause people to attack those people unjustly. You can malign people by saying that because you're a powerful man and people look up to you, they revere you, and they respect what you have to say. See, he does not have image consultants telling him that around him, because if he did, he would have not gotten on stage during that debate with Kamala Harris, excuse me, and he would not have said that in that way. Even if that's what's being reported, you talk about that behind the scenes. But you don't get in a public debate and say something like that. You have to say it in a different way. You can't get on a public stage and say, they're letting all of these horrible people into our country, even though it's true. Even though it's true. But as a politician, you have to have a certain image. You can say what you want as a businessman, but as a politician, you cannot get on a public forum, least of all a presidential debate where you are supposed to be the president for all people. You cannot do that, Mr. Trump, because that is going to destroy your efforts to become president again. And that's exactly what it's doing. People that were supporting you, now they're going over to Kamala Harris. And I'm not going to sit here and lie. When Trump was in office, grocery prices were lower. When Trump was in office, I was making more money. It always seems like when the Democrats get in office, people's money start getting funny. And I don't have anything against Vice President Kamala Harris. Nothing against her at all. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding her. I know it's whatever, but I understand politics and political science. And sometimes it can't be personal. It has to be political. Those who know, they know. And it all ties into spirituality and the occult. Donald Trump does not have the right image consultants around him because people are not qualified. Let me go back to what I said earlier. People are not qualified to be in the positions that they're getting paid for anymore. They're putting people in positions of power that don't deserve it. Now, Donald Trump is a brilliant businessman. The reason he did not make a good president is because he has no filter. He has no filter. He has no filter. He's a Gemini. They don't have a filter. They say whatever they want to say. Even though Trump is speaking elements of truth, there's a certain way you have to say those things. And Trump is not trained in neurolinguistics. Kamala Harris is. And neurolinguistics is what gets the people to vote for you. You can tell by how Donald Trump speaks that he is not trained in the science of neurolinguistics. And neurolinguistics is speaking in a certain pattern and format that can get people to basically do what you want them to do. Now, I know he has a lot of supporters, but remember, he lost in 2020, and it looks like he's getting ready to lose again. If he would, another thing too, You cannot allow racist people to publicly endorse you. Hulk Hogan is a racist. He has proven over and over and over again he does not like black women. His son was dating a black woman. He was enraged about it. I don't know what happened between the son and the black girl. Maybe the black girl did some messed up stuff. Granted, I don't know. But he went on a recorded, he didn't know he was being recorded. He went on a phone rant referring to the girl as the N-word over and over again. Why would Donald Trump allow Hulk Hogan to speak at the National Republican, was it his Republican convention? You don't do that. You have to distance yourself away from those types of people. And see, if he had a good image consultant, they would have said, Mr. Trump, it's not a good idea to have Hulk Hogan. If you want to get the black vote, it's not a good idea to have Hulk Hogan on the stage knowing how he really feels about black people, particularly black women. And you want black women to vote for you because black women put presidents in the White House. And let's not talk about all the misogyny that's backing him up. All the misogynistic types of frequencies that are backing him up. See, this is where his image consultant would come in and clean him up. But he does not have a good image consultant. He doesn't. But this is what the world is ran on, right? I was looking at a movie, right, on Tubi. You know, The Bowels of the Ghetto. And the name of the movie was called A Good Man. They had two parts, 1 and 2. And basically, it's about a man who was looking for love. He was a black guy, of course. He's a rich real estate mogul, a multi-millionaire, billionaire, whatever the case may be. He was married once, and he caught his wife in bed having sex with another man. Then he was engaged. Then, you know, in the movie, he got engaged to another woman. And this other woman was still in love with her baby daddy. I'm sorry, not her baby daddy, but her ex-boyfriend, who I believe was an ex-convict, but he knew how to slang that pipe in the bedroom. And he caught her in bed with him. And he ended up killing her, him, and that guy's kids, and his wife. And he killed the fiance I mentioned earlier. Then in part 2, the female police officer that was investigating him for killing his fiance and all those people in part 1, he ended up having an affair with her. She was married to a white boy. She told him she was married to a white boy. He ended up killing her, the white boy husband, and her partner, who she was also having an affair with. But what I found interesting about that movie is the energy behind it. It's how can I put this? It's the dangerous, psychotic, toxic, misogynistic energy behind it. The woman, the two women, all of the women in that movie, they were responsible for their actions. They did not make the right decisions. They should not have done the things that they did. Let me say that first off. But that doesn't mean because somebody cheats on you that you have the right to take their life. And that is the energy that the world is running on. This type of toxic, misogynistic, psychotic energy. So somebody cheats on you. Yeah, he caught him in his bed or whatever the case may be. Somebody cheats on you, and then you're ready to unalive them. That's just not right. It's just not right. That's why Betty Broderick is in jail now. You can't go around unaliving people because they fell in love with somebody else or even because they cheat. You can't do that. But when you listen to the energies of Andrew Tate, when you listen to the energies of all these other men, this is the mentality that they have. They're not going to tell you that up front. But Tubi imitates life. There are men just like that man in that movie. And going back to Puff Daddy, when you connect the dots, Puff Daddy, Tubi movies, and the characteristics of a lot of these psychotic men and people in general in these Tubi movies, they are really similar to the allegations that are being presented about Puff Daddy. But we're supposed to turn a blind eye and say, well, it's bigger than Puff Daddy. You're right, it is bigger than Puff Daddy. That's why he's going to jail. That's why they locked him up. But just because it's bigger than Puff Daddy, it doesn't mean that he didn't have a choice. He had a choice to do or not do everything that he did. We all have choices and free will. They know exactly what they're doing. They see all this money and all this opportunity to be connected to beautiful women. They see opportunity to have power that a lot of them have never had, because you can tell a lot of them have never had personal power. Because when you have personal power, you don't have to act like that. No matter, you can have $2 in the bank. But when you have personal power, you have unlimited abundance. People don't understand that. But a lot of these people, they have money and they have no values and they have no personal power. And this is how you create your Puff Daddies. This is how you create your Bill Cosbys. This is how you create these other entities that are running around, your Harvey Weinsteins, and so forth and so on. And then they want to sit up and talk about God like Tyrese. How can Tyrese talk about God when God has not been working for him? He talks like a preacher and a minister. He talks like one. But we all know that a lot of them are nothing but pulpit pimps anyway. They're nothing but sheeps and wolves and no wolves in sheep's clothing. We know that anyway. And right after Tyrese did that interview, this nigga ends up in jail owing child support for $73,000. But you want us to believe that women should be ashamed because they want to be single? You want to shame somebody. They would rather have you live in a toxic relationship than be single. He said, well, even though a lot of these women sing about independent women and all that and being independent, a lot of them are going home to a man. You're absolutely right. But what type of relationship are they really going home to? Are they going home to a happy home? Because from what we're always seeing, a lot of them are not even going home to happy homes. For example, that cooking couple, the Neelys. We thought they were happy. Come on, baby. Doing all that extra over dramatization shit in the kitchen. Come on, baby. Cook on this, baby. Then the next thing you know, we getting a divorce, baby. Remember? The Neelys? Then she went through a process of bleaching her skin. She don't even look the same no more. You don't even hear from the Neelys anymore. What happened to the Neelys? Greg Mathis and his wife. I can't think of the wife's name. I think her name is Linda, if I'm not mistaken. Greg Mathis and his wife. We're thinking that they're happy, and they weren't happy. So all of this, women are running home to husbands, but a lot of times they're running home to men that they're not even happy with. No matter how much money they have, a lot of these women be miserable with good reason sometimes. With good reason. Excuse me. With good reason. So it's not always greener on the other side. And why should we be taking advice from a man that has proven himself, or any man or anyone who has proven themselves to be unhinged, who has no value? Just because you talk about God don't mean that you have value or morality, as you all like to say it. Puff Daddy is a bad person. He's a bad person. And I don't care how high or how low it goes. They got the right one. They got the right one. They got the right one. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. Get that off my chest. This is the Occult View. Thank you.